Damascus, Syria, December the 8th, 2024. Early this morning, rebels took over Damascus and had the government turned over to them peacefully, with Assad apparently nowhere to be found. It was reported that Assad's family had fled earlier to Russia, and Russia state media reported that Assad himself landed in Moscow after having fled. This is a historic moment, as the collapse of more than 53 years of the al-Assad family rule has finally ended. The rule was marked by so much violence and hard rule that any dissent being quashed was to the point of literally killing thousands of their own countrymen, including the use of chemical weapons. This harsh rule began a civil war in 2011 that continued to this day as the people attempted to overthrow Assad. Only the help of Russian air forces, Iran, and Hezbollah allowed him to continue his rule to date. However, with Russia's interest heavily vested in Ukraine, and Hezbollah leadership destroyed, and military forces seriously weakened by Israel recently in Lebanon, Syrian rebel forces were able to take the country. Al-Jalali, the leader of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, has taken a more moderate stance in the 10 days leading up to the capture of Damascus. Although he once had ties with al-Qaeda and spent 5 years in American prisons in Iraq after fighting Americans there, he has since denounced al-Qaeda and taken a more Syrian nationalist approach to his rebel activities. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham is designated as a terrorist organization by the United States and the United Nations, a designation al-Jalali has been trying to get removed. During the recent 10 days, he ordered his forces not to attack minority religions such as Christians, and had them go around telling Christians in occupied areas that they may celebrate Christmas. He also told forces to stay out of the government offices until they were voluntarily relinquished by them. Perhaps this more moderate approach and his handling of Syria from this point forward will allow al-Jalali to achieve his goal of normalcy. President Joe Biden called it a moment of historic opportunity for the long-suffering people of Syria in his remarks in the White House today. According to the NBC News, the celebrations broke out in Damascus after the fall of Assad. Let me give you a little bit of historical background here. Syria has always been viewed as an important geographical location, subjecting it to conflicts throughout its history. Syria was a province of Rome in the 1st century AD and is mentioned 10 times in the New Testament as well as 108 times in the Old Testament. Syria and Cilicia together was a mission area for the early Christian church. Syria was a country in which the Greek language came together with the Syriac language, the latter being closely related to the Aramaic dialect used by Jesus and the apostles. The Phoenicians of biblical times lived on the coast of ancient Syria and were the most skilled seamen of that era. Control of Syria passed to the Byzantines after the split of the Roman Empire. It was conquered by the Arab Rashidun army in AD 640 and fought over by various Muslim leaders, and even a tribute nation to the Mongols during the Middle Ages. Sections were held by the French, English, Italian, and German overlords during the Crusades. The Ottoman Empire controlled the region from the 16th century. After the Ottoman Empire chose the wrong side in World War I and was defeated, they lost control of the entire region. France and Great Britain had already begun parsing up the Middle East 2 years before the war ended, with France eventually taking control of Syria after many conflicts against local rulers. After the end of World War II, the Syrian Republic was founded in 1946, ending in constant upheaval. Beginning in 1949, there were a series of military coups. After the Suez Crisis in 1956, Syria signed a pact with the Soviet Union, which continued to influence the nation under Russia even as the bloc was broken up. Hafiz al-Assad controlled the military, and eventually became the cult leader of the ruling Ba'athist Party, and turned the country into a totalitarian dictatorship. Eventually, he was succeeded by his son, Bashar al-Assad, who took over the country in 2000 in an unopposed election. Syria's attack of the nation of Israel weakened it and eventually caused the loss of the Golan Heights in the south as a result of the Six-Day War in 1967. There was rioting in the years after Assad took over, and Assad clamped down on any dissent. During the spring of 2011, an attempt to overthrow his government, there were many reprisals. Assad was purported to have killed thousands of his people, as I said before, including using chemical weapons. His support by Russia Air Forces, Iran, and Hezbollah allowed him to continue in control, albeit with constant civil conflict throughout the country, until now. With Russia drawn to Ukraine and the defeat recently of Hezbollah leadership and forces in Lebanon, rebel forces were able to make a 10-day sweep to take Damascus and overthrow Assad and end his tyrannical rule. Let's have a little bit of commentary here. I'd like to begin this from Ephesians 6:12. For we do not wrestle against the flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. For 53 years, the al-Assad family ruled over Syria with an iron fist, including subjugation to the evil sphere of the Soviet Union and Putin's Russia to keep that power. When rulers make deals with the devil to stay in power, to the detriment of their own people, there eventually comes a price to pay. While Assad did not suffer the humiliation and execution of Saddam Hussein in Iraq, and he escaped to Russia, he finally lost the power he had committed so many sins to keep. While I am reluctant to say at this point that the new rulers of Syria will be better, there are positive signs this will be so. The Syrian people did what was instructed in James 4:7. Submit yourself to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. This is Larry McDowell for Christian Press and Bible College Radio.